Welcome to Flavor Text, an extension of the Max Level podcast brought to you by Technisport Gaming Chairs. Use offer code LDG to save 10% whenever you make a purchase on a brand new gaming chair, desk, or accessories. Be sure to subscribe to the Max Level podcast on your podcast app of choice to hear a new episode every Monday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern. On today's episode of Flavor Text, the crew reminisces on the 1980s and discuss things they'd like to see return from the best decade ever. Support us by clicking that subscribe button, hit the like, turn notifications on, and drop a comment down below. We have a discussion for this week that I think is going to be predominantly carried by Frank. I think that, you are going to have a lot of things to say with this and a lot of reminiscing to do, because what we're going to be talking about for Flavor Text is things that we want to return from the 1980s. Now we're talking 1980 through 1989. We want things that from that span of 10 years of things that we want to return. Now, the reason I think this is going to be dominated by you this week is you have several years on me in the 80s. You were born in 82, were you not?
Yes.
So you have 7 years worth of stuff that you could reminisce on and or 8 years, technically, things that you want to be brought back, even though I don't really count 82, but still. So I myself, being born in 1986, only have 3 or 4 years, depending on how you look at it, of stuff that I would want to come back. So me just still being a little child, you actually, getting up to 8 years old before the 90s arrived, have quite a bit more things to reminisce on. So we're just going to go kind of spitball off each other, throw things out that we want to come back and see where this takes us. I have no idea. This is not planned. Obviously, this is just something we're doing off the fly for Flavor Text this week. Really putting no thought into this. So let's just see what we come up with.
I'm going to start off with the first thing that popped into my mind. I know it's something stupid, shallow, and pedantic, but whatever. Blue lemonade Kool-Aid.
Now, when I told you I wanted to do this about a week and a half ago, the first thing you thought, without even thinking, you're just like, oh, yeah, cool, blue Kool-Aid. And I told you there's Sharkleberry Blue.
It's not the same thing. Trust me, I've tried many things that are supposed to be close to it, but there was a flavor. It was blue lemonade Kool-Aid. Did it have blueberry in it? I don't know, but it was delightful and I miss it and I want it back.
I've never had it, so I can't say that I've ever tried it.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you what, Sharkleberry Blue is my favorite Kool-Aid flavor. I love it.
In the same vein, though, I also put down Ecto Cooler.
Ooh, yeah. I've had those.
There is a new Ghostbusters movie in the works being written by Howard Ramis' son. So we did get Ecto Cooler back for the horrible reboot. I'm sure we'll get it back again for this new one. Please, High C, make it so.
I don't have any food or drinks on my list.
I actually do have quite a few food things. Brian, I think you're with me on this one, though. So is my boy Phil Brooks.
Okay.
WWF Superstars of Wrestling ice cream bars.
Yeah, the WWF ice cream bars, yeah.
They were the greatest thing ever. I'd be perfectly fine if the ice cream man just had chocolate-backed vanilla ice cream bars with the shortbread on the front, without
like any type of picture on it or whatever.
I could care less with the picture, but I would prefer to eat wrestling bars. Sink my teeth into Alexa Bliss. Okay. I'm
pretty sure it was only male wrestlers on those ice cream bars. So you'd be sinking your teeth into some John Cena.
You wouldn't be able to see him. Kraft cheese balls.
He'd be in your mouth.
Well, speaking of things that are delicious in my mouth.
Speaking of balls.
Kraft cheese balls. They don't make anymore. They're the predator to your cheesy poof. So great. Good stuff. Thanks, Brian. Okay, quasi-related to food here. I miss metal lunchboxes with thermoses. Or even the plastic ones. Everyone used to have a lunchbox that was themed after something like He-Man or Urkel.
Okay.
But you have your lunchbox and you have your thermos inside. Mom would always pack a nice soup and sandwich for me. It'd be the best.
I never actually had the metal ones. I always had the plastic ones when I started school.
I had plastic ones. I had a metal one that never went to school with me. Then I had plastic ones. I had my Ninja Turtles. They were great. Again, do I have any more food things here? Yes, I do. One more food thing. Go figure. The vast, crazy amount of sugary cereals that were available in the 80s.
There's still a fair amount of sugary cereals, but not nearly as many.
I also miss their commercials.
Okay, like the Count Chocula commercials and stuff.
Well, in fact, my favorite commercial for Christmas time still is Fruity Pebbles.
Fruity Pebbles, baby. I was gonna say Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah, but Fruitylicious. It's not even Christmas to me until I see that. So there's that.
And luckily they still do play it nowadays. Like it's still largely the same commercial that we're used to.
Other things I miss from the 80s, and these things could still be going on. But this thing I personally miss, the Scholastic Book Fair.
Oh, yes. From like being in elementary school. I distinctly remember that. Obviously now I was in elementary school. I think I started in 91.
So it's probably still going through there.
Yeah, and I do still think that it is now, because I've asked people, more recently, like, hey, did you have this when you were younger? Because I'm, working at the haunted house throughout the Halloween season. I interact with a lot of younger people, and kids, and not even necessarily kids, but like people in their like early 20s and stuff have said that, yeah, we had that when we were little. So I'm assuming that thing still exists.
I hope so, because I used to look forward to that every year, getting it, circling the books I want.
Hell yeah.
Getting the stamp of approval from mom to get these things.
I didn't need an approval. I just got whatever I freaking wrote down. But I always literally just was like kiddie books anyway. So
most of the time I got the okay though, because they were books. I mean,
but I used to order like the games and stuff off the back too.
I was gonna say those were in there as well. Yeah. But I mostly got the books.
Yeah, I used to get like the little sand art things you could get, like the craft things you could buy. I tried to get like the books that had activities to do with them, like the origami stuff. I actually still have quite a few of those books tucked away in a box somewhere.
All those like find the picture things and find
the I Spies and stuff. Yep.
The 80s, the era of the action figure. All the action figures that I had as a kid. I miss it. When I say these things, I want to tie in toy commercials in general. There really aren't toy commercials anymore on TV, and that's because you're not allowed to advertise directly to children. I mean, you can still see a random toy commercial here and there, but most of them have been phased out. I miss all that. I miss seeing He-Man commercials, Ninja Turtle commercials, and then, tying that back into the fact that there's no longer Saturday morning cartoons.
There's not. I know. We actually just talked about that in our first ever episode of Flavor Text 2 weeks ago, where we took a look at video game cartoons that we think would transition or, make a good cartoon in 2019. We actually talked about that.
Yeah, I miss all those things. I miss Toys R Us from the 80s, even though it just recently went out of business.
Yeah, but still, it was a major concept in the 80s that we can now miss because it's no longer here.
A big thing from the 80s that I really miss, Pee-wee's Playhouse.
I don't miss that. I was never a fan of that.
I don't think you were able to even be a fan until the scandal hit. Once the scandal hit, of course, things kind of went down south for Mr. Paul Rubens. But that was a big deal. I loved it. I mean, everybody in school was watching it and quoting it and doing the voice. I can't do the voice.
You said the secret word or whatever.
It was great. It was. I miss educational TV in general, like that. Reading Rainbow was one of my favorite shows.
Mm-hmm. I did watch Reading Rainbow.
Butterfly in the sky, I can fly twice as high.
Set a book, Reading Rainbow. Back
to commercials. I miss drug PSAs.
This is like a lightning round stuff you're firing off here at me. How much stuff did you write down?
You told me things I wanted back. I miss the drug PSA. I mean, we do see kind of like anti-smoking ones, anti-marijuana ones nowadays.
Dare.
You don't see Dare anymore. You see Truth.
No, that's why I was saying that. I was trying to do my Ron Simmons Damn, but I did Dare.
I mean, those were good. I mean, and
did you ever have to do the Dare thing when you were in elementary school, where you had to like put on a play and do things?
Everyone did.
Yeah.
And tied in with that, I missed the after school special, or the very special episode of a sitcom where they would deal with something like this. Afterwards, the cast would come out of character and kind of talk to you and give you like a moral lesson. I know it's very cheesy, very 80s, but I do miss that. I mean, like that
is something I don't think would translate well to 2019. And modern society, I don't think that would translate well.
You don't have that anymore.
Kids would laugh at that as they did the floss and then went and shot things on Fortnite.
Yeah, sure that. I mean, there's an episode of Different Strokes where Dudley is molested or implied molested by the Mr. something, the bike repair guy. And afterwards, they talked about, if you see something, say something with child molestation. It's a big thing, like they raise social issues before social media was a thing.
It would be a good thing to have in today's society. I just don't think it would translate well. They'd have to figure out a better way to do it.
Another random one that I actually thought about during this holiday season was being able to meet people at the gate at airports. That's no longer a thing. You know, now for the closest you can get, pretty much is baggage claim.
Well, you can go up to the security.
Right before the security.
Yeah,
line.
you can go up to security.
Which is, it's crazy because you literally used to be able to wait right there at the gate.
Yeah, but then 9/11 happened, dude. Do you remember that?
I mean, you literally used to be able to walk up to the gate and purchase a ticket to go on a plane. It would cost you a lot more, but you could walk all the way up to the gate and buy a ticket.
Yeah. And then 9/11 happened.
Granted, yeah, that's not a good thing. Terrible thing. How about a great thing here? Reebok pumps.
Okay.
I miss these sneakers. Used to pump them up. They used to make you think you could jump really high, run really fast, break world records.
Oh, the other kids with their pumped up kicks.
Exactly. All they really did was just make my shoes tight.
Oh, so stupid. I hated those things.
Something that's going to tug at your heartstrings right here. SNCC and TGIF.
Yeah. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
SNCC being Saturday night Nickelodeon shows, the whole little block there. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Although, granted, Are You Afraid of the Dark was 90s, and all that was 90s, and Kenan and Kel was 90s.
Yes, but SNCC started late 80s.
Yeah,
so
but none of the cartoons that I watched, or not cartoons, but none of the shows I watched in SNCC were from the 80s.
Well, just like TGIF could continue into the 90s as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I miss these things. Something crazy. And I wrote this list before it even happened. I took a stupid little online test of like, what one thing from the 80s did you want to come back? And this actually was on the list of things they asked me. The Walkman / the mixtape.
Why would you want that to come back? And in a world where Spotify exists and you have the entire music catalog of basically everyone that's ever came out.
I miss the old days of just trading tapes or making mixtapes. It was. I know nowadays you can just throw together a playlist.
I was gonna say, the 2019 equivalent of that is a playlist on Spotify.
I know, but there was something charming and endearing about it.
Frank, if there's a special girl at work that you're interested in, just make her a playlist, dude.
Think she'll like it?
Maybe.
Well, we'll try.
You can attach a little. Maybe what you got.
I could write her some liner notes.
What you got to do is you got to put the tracks in a specific order so that the first letter of each track spells out a secret message.
A P song, an E song, an N song, and I. What's that?
Jesus.
What was I spelling penetration right? I'm sorry. I missed the game show Double Dare.
I don't, because I recently watched the reboot and it sucked.
I had an ambition as a child to be on Double Dare. In fact, they did a thing when I want to say 7, maybe 8 years old, where they went around to the malls in the area for tryouts. And you could try out some of these things. And me and my little sister tried to do it. And Nicole was probably about 4 or 5 years old. And we went through these things. We got a little messy and stuff. But it ended up they didn't take anyone from the Long Island area, so go figure, bunch of bastards. But I totally wanted to be on these shows because I'm very big into game shows in general, and I'm pretty trivia smart, especially when it comes to pop culture. So I think I would have dominated that show as a kid. But
sure. Did you watch the reboot? Because it sucked.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Garbage Pail Kids. I owned the entire run of those cards as a kid. It used to be one of those joys. I would the deli by my house was 4 blocks away, so I used to walk to the deli with like $1 or $2, buy a pack of cards, get them, and collect them. I still have 2 whole sets of them in order in a binder somewhere. I just don't know where it is. That's something I really wish would come back because I like to collect things, but I don't think they're going to translate too well in this political climate we have here because they were offensive as hell.
They were. I remember those.
And not that we don't have these now, but I miss the era of the board game. Nowadays, modern board games are all like card-based things. Like
they aren't that fun. They aren't that fun.
They aren't fun.
I mean, they're fun, but they're not like they were.
Games back then, they were. I want
to Don't Wake Daddy again. I don't want to Wake Daddy.
Don't Wake Daddy. God, right now you're killing me with just games I can think of. Mousetrap. Anything so like all these mechanical moving parts.
One of my favorite board games of all time, but I do think it's a 90s board game, unless there was an 80s version, and I'm not sure about. 13 Dead End Drive. That
was the 90s, but it's also a great game.
Yeah.
Final thing, and this ties back into the fact that we are video game guys. I miss video stores. I miss being able to go, yeah, sure. Yeah. Now we have the convenience of everything at our fingertips. I miss being able to go somewhere, look at a case and say, hey, I'm going to watch this movie. I'm going to rent this game. Did it get me to try a lot of crazy things I never would have tried before? Absolutely. And that was part of the charm of it.
Now that I will say is very geographically dependent as well, because there are certain areas like myself, we still have video stores here. We still have Family Video, that chain of local stores where I'm surprised you don't have one in your area, but they do still rent Switch games and PS4 games. And it's the entire catalog. It's pretty much like everything that's ever released, they still have at Family Video. Like that's still geographically based.
But they're nowhere near the level they used to be. Blockbuster used to be the place to go on a Friday night. It was packed, and you'd get yourself snacks and a movie and a game. It's a time in my life that I miss it so much, and I wish it would come back, but it can't come back. It's a dead medium. No,
and not only that, but I mean, you have these modern platforms like the Xbox One and the PS4 doing PlayStation Now, and Xbox Game Pass, which are more or less rental services, and you have GameFly, which dominates the rest of the rental service through mail. So there's really no place for a brick and mortar rental store, but Family Video still does exist, and it does well.
But there was one thing I left off the list because I was hoping you would expand upon. I miss the music, but I'm hoping that's something that you were going to bring up.
I was about to say that
I kept that very absent for a reason, because I was hoping that
I was about to say that we didn't cross over on a single damn thing, and I was actually kind of shocked on that. I have 7 things on my list that I wrote down, and in big bold letters, number 1, a big hair and 80s glam heavy metal.
That was done on purpose.
Is the number 1 thing that I absolutely miss from the 80s. Obviously, myself, I am a huge fan of 80s hair bands, 80s glam metal, 80s heavy metal, 80s rock, just anything, and not even just 80s heavy metal, but 80s pop, 80s synthwave, 80s everything, everything, 80s electronica, just 80s music in general. Just to me is, now the 90s were great as well, but the 90s were the last great decade of music. But the 80s really, in my opinion, still is better than the 90s. But just in terms of the music, just the amount of bands that we had, the way that they actually composed songs, or the way that they wrote songs, and the lyrics had more meaning. And dude, just the big hair, the big hair in general. Just, I have long hair myself. It's down to, mid back, it's mid chest, but I never style it like I don't tease it. I don't have it cut in certain layers so that I can make a freaking palm tree like the dude from Cinderella or anything like that. Eric, I think his name was. But there's just, and there are bands and there are people that still, possess that in the modern era. And, most of them are found over in Sweden and Finland, though. We don't really have any bands like that here in North America. Well,
that's because those countries are 30 years behind us. I'm kidding. You guys are putting out great music, so I'm not even talking smack.
Doesn't matter. I would move there in a heartbeat. Solely for the music alone. And Jessica and I have already talked about that. Like, yeah, I would totally go there. One thing I put on my list that I'm surprised you didn't mention is the arcades. Like just having, like an arcade setting, being able to go to a local arcade or a mall, go in there, check out the latest releases, see the cabinets, see the artwork on the cabinets, form friendships there. And we've talked a lot about arcades in the past. We did a whole segment on it in the Max Level podcast back when we were doing our trip down memory lane last year. But and if you missed the arcade talk, you can go back and listen to that. It is on our YouTube channel if you want to watch the video. I actually do believe we were still doing video at that portion as well. But yeah, just having arcades either at a local mall or a standalone brick and mortar store where you could go in and play new releases and, just have fun, man. Arcades were just fun. And that's something that we don't have anymore. And it is sad. 2 toys that I really miss from the 80s that I put down on my list: Lite-Brite and Etch-a-Sketch.
It's crazy you mentioned that. Those 2 in particular, to be honest.
Yeah.
I bought those as presents for my friend's daughter for Christmas.
Yeah, there are modern versions, but they're slightly different than the ones that we had in the 80s.
I bought the retro series, so they're just like the old ones.
Okay. Those ones are more expensive.
It's a little more expensive, but I got to spoil them. They're the babies. And I bought them, and then she goes, "Why this?" I go, "Because these are my favorite toys when I was a kid."
Those were my favorite toys when I was a kid. Yeah. And I do believe that anyone really born in the 80s, those were your favorite toys as a kid, a Lite-Brite and an Etch-a-Sketch. Because
I was told that buying that for a 3-year-old wasn't the smart thing to do because of all the small parts, but whatever.
Well, Etch-a-Sketch doesn't really have small parts. You just sitting there drawing stupid pictures.
She loves her Lite-Brite, so suck it.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, I remember just getting the pages, and they were very flimsy pages. Let's just say that, and we'll be honest, those things used to rip all the time and they sucked. But you stick it on there and you put these little color pegs in it and you make pictures. And my mom and I literally used to sit there for hours a night and just make art and pictures, and it was fun, and it was a bonding moment, and it was sincere, and I really liked it. And you don't have a lot of things like that anymore. So for something like that, it meant a lot to me. And I don't have my Lite-Brite anymore. I don't have my Etch-a-Sketch. My Etch-a-Sketch broke. I think, man, and it broke like mid 90s. That thing broke. I think one of my friends actually mistakenly stepped on it at a birthday party that I had. But and as soon as you put any, too much pressure on that thing, that screen just went. It just quickly gave out. So, and I never bought a replacement. I never asked for a replacement because I never really used it anyway. I just had it still. But the Lite-Brite, I actually used to still mess around with regularly. But yeah, I have no idea what happened to that. So, but I did have another kind of toy on here. I got this in the 90s, but it was around in the 80s. Creepy crawlers.
You know what? My cousin had it, so I played it, but I didn't have it myself, but I always wanted it.
Yeah, I used to use this thing all the freaking time. I got it for Christmas, I want to say in 1995. Trying to remember where I lived. Yeah, so it would have been Christmas 95. I got a Creepy Crawler set. But I looked it up, and it actually released originally in the 1980s. So it is the same thing, and it was the same one that was like, there wasn't like a newer version. It's the same one that I had that was back out in the 80s. But it was this thing where it was like for the lack of a better way of comparison, it was like an Easy Bake Oven. And
it's exactly, it's an Easy Bake Oven for boys, but it's not making food. It's making
little disgusting bugs. So what you would do is you would have this metal plate that, let me tell you, would get fucking hot. And
oh yeah,
you put this goo or whatever into your metal plates, and you should be able to go to the store and you could actually buy these little tubes of goo, and they sold them individually, and you would get these special colors and special packs and, special edition ones. It's like your DLC packs of the modern era, or, sure. you could buy, you can buy these add-ons or these costumes for things. And it was like that, but you could make these colored creepy crawlers like crabs and scorpions and spiders and ants and flies and just all these different types of bugs. And you would put them in these little metal things and put them in the oven, and they would take like 10 minutes, 20 minutes to heat up. And they would harden into like a wax or like a thing that you could mess around with and play with. And I don't recommend eating them like an Easy Bake Oven, and I don't recommend eating anything you make in an Easy Bake Oven anyway. Let me just be honest. But yeah, man, those things.
You don't eat food heated up by light bulbs?
No. But now radiation waves, sure, microwaves. But when were those invented? I don't even know. Wasn't the 80s though. Wasn't the 80s. But anyway, it's creepy crawlers, man, that I just remember reading stories of them, things like catching on fire because of how hot they used to get. Like, those things just were super dangerous. And I can't believe how many people used to leave those things unattended. The next thing I wrote down is Atari. I really hope that this Atari VCS, if it comes out in 2019, or I hope it still does, but I hope it is the reemergence of Atari in the video game industry, because I really do want Atari back as a console platform. I would love it if in 2019 we have the PlayStation 4 and we're getting ready for the PlayStation 5. We have the Xbox One, we're getting ready for the Xbox Scarlet. We have the Nintendo Switch, we're getting that Nintendo Switch revision. But then we have the Atari VCS. I really hope 2019 is the reemergence of Atari in terms of console platforms, where we get this console that does have new Atari games on it, but it still has all the retro games as well. So I'm really hoping that this is the year of Atari's reemergence with this thing that was actually supposed to release last year, but it got delayed. So we'll have to see. One word: Boglins. Why didn't you mention Boglins?
What's a Boglin? No, I'm kidding. It's the most awesome puppet you know.
and there's so many of them.
I had one myself, and I used to terrorize my sister with it.
I had several Boglins, but yeah, man, there's so many Boglins. I remember looking these up recently, man. They some of them sell for a steep price, but these things are just super ugly, super creepy. And they do remind me of something that you would have really messed around with. So I'm surprised you only had one. I thought you would have had like a ton.
No, I had Mad Balls instead. Those like disgusting looking ball things.
I remember though. I never owned those, but I remember seeing those in stores where they had like creepy faces and like blood and like guts and their eyes were hanging out and stuff. But that's what, okay. That's what I was thinking of.
I had those, but yeah, my Boglin, I used to terrorize Nicole with that on the regular. And they were creepy. They reminded me very much of Labyrinth.
They do. Yeah, absolutely. They do. Absolutely. Now that you said that. The last thing I wrote down is a cartoon that I wish would come back and make new episodes. And it's a cartoon that I actually still watch on the regular because I do like reminiscing and watching the older cartoons. Garfield and Friends, the original version of Garfield and Friends.
Hell yeah, dude. In fact, you know what?
But I don't think it would be the same because Lorenzo Music is dead. And a lot of those people are probably passed away by now.
Now, I forget the second show that was in that. Garfield and Friends had
U.S. Acres or whatever it was called. With Orson and Roy.
Yeah, which is a great show. I love that.
I think it was U.S. Acres.
But the actual Garfield stuff, there is a more modern like 3D computer thing.
And it sucks.
It's not bad actually.
I hate it. I've watched it and I hate it. I want the old 80s style to return, like the art style and the way that the animation was done.
I thought it was gonna be like the 80s style. I actually sat
me too.
I sat my 2-year-old niece down when I was in Colorado, and I was like, "Hey, let's watch this Garfield together." And yeah, she didn't like it. I wasn't particularly happy with it. It was alien lasagna from another planet. It wasn't very good.
Yeah, I've watched several episodes of the new version, and I just can't get into it, man. It doesn't have the same appeal. It doesn't have the same charm as it did back in the 80s and 90s. I really do wish that, man, they'd bring it back because it is, to my knowledge now, I don't regularly get the paper anymore. I don't know anyone that does. So I don't know, but comic strips are still in print in newspapers. But Garfield is still one of like the most famous comic strip things around, at least to my knowledge. So I don't know. But I do think that there's still a place for it. And I think that it would potentially do well. So I kind of wish, because we are getting, again, this is 90s, but we are getting that reboot of Blue's Clues in 2019. I kind of wish we would get a reboot of Garfield and Friends where it would be done in the same style as it was back in the 80s, because I think especially, man, they could do a lot of things with, because Garfield, you know, he always made fun of like things like Garfield was very much South Park before South Park was South Park, because Garfield used to make fun of a lot of like modern day societal issues and that kind of stuff. So I think that they could do a thing much like Matt and Trey do with South Park, but keep it on a much more friendly, childlike level. I think Garfield could be brought back and poke fun at things like that. And I think it would be interesting and cool.
I wish a lot of the cartoons that I watched as a kid would come back. I really do want Saturday morning cartoons back.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's stupid that they changed it that, you know, there has to be educational programming in the morning. There is a place for educational programming. I even mentioned it's one of the things I miss.
Yeah.
But don't take cartoons away from kids.
And while we're at it, let's bring back Livewire and Superstars. Let's not. Todd Pettingale needs a job, guys. But that is all that I had as well. So interesting that we didn't cross over. But if you missed particular things in the 80s that we did not mention, let us know. Drop us a comment down below in the comment section. Let us know what you missed from the 80s. If you agree with some of the things that Frank and I mentioned, let us know that you missed those things as well. And give us some stories. Let us know why you missed those things. We definitely want to interact and kind of reminisce together about things that we missed from our childhoods. So it'd be cool. It'd be fun. Thanks for checking out a new episode of Flavor Text. If you enjoyed what you just heard, be sure to click that subscribe button and turn notifications on, leave a like, and drop a comment down below. We'll see you next time.